Jalpaiguri 2030. Jalpaiguri's development challenge has many perspectives. It is a tea district, it is a floodplain district, and it is also a forest edge district and has rural and urban economy both. Official demography shows a population of 38.73 lakh with 72.62% rural population and 37.65% scheduled caste population and 18.89 scheduled tribe population, with a density lower than state's most crowded districts and a strong tea forest river setting. Jalpaiguri needs a development model that connects flood safety, worker welfare, rural livelihoods, logistic and ecosystem resilience. A flood logistic tea economy model is therefore the most logical sustainable development pathway for the district. The proposed 5-year investment of 8,000 crore rupees should be treated as a district transformation mission. The first pillar should be a 1600 crore flood drainage and water package. Jalpaiguri's riverine geography makes flood disruption a recurring economic and social risk. Poor drainage damages roads, interrupts market access, affects schools and health centers, and deepens the vulnerability of rural and tea garden settlements. Reliable water systems are equally important because water security, sanitation, and public health are inseparable. This investment should therefore combine drainage improvement, flood-proofing, safe drinking water, local water systems, and climate-sensitive planning. The second pillar should be another 1600 crore rupees for tea and agro-processing with common facilities. Tea remains central to Jalpaiguri's identity and employment structure. But the future cannot depend only on a raw production and low value labor. The district needs value addition, better worker services, tea linked tourism, common processing facilities, and agro processing beyond tea. This can help small farmers, tea workers, women's group, and rural entrepreneurs move from wage dependence to value chain participation. A stronger agro-processing base will also reduce post-harvest losses and create rural non-farm jobs. The third component, 1440 crore, should focus on logistic, rural connectivity and warehousing. Jalpaiguri's location gives it gateway potential, but logistics becomes meaningful only when roads, aggregation points, markets, and trade routes are connected. Warehousing and connectivity can help farmers, tea producers, and forestage enterprises and small traders. Better logistics will reduce transport cost, improve market timing, and increase the value retained locally. The fourth investment, another 1440 crore, should support worker housing, health, and education. This is especially important because Jalpaiguri has a large SC and ST population and a major tea worker presence. Development cannot be measured only through roads and warehouses if worker settlement remains poorly served. Better housing, health access, school support, and education infrastructure are central to SDG and climate justice. Worker welfare is also an economic investment because healthier and better educated families create a more stable and productive district economy. The fifth and largest component, 1920 crore, should be invested in ecotourism and forest resilience. Jalpaiguri's forest and river landscape can generate local income, but only if tourism is regulated, community owned, and ecologically responsible. Ecotourism should support local guides, women's food enterprises, homestays, transport services, nature interpretation, cultural products, and conservation linked livelihoods. Forest resilience should include biodiversity protection, human wildlife interface management, climate adaptation, community institutions, and sustainable livelihood support for forest settlements. The financing plan is practical if it is blended carefully. Around 64% of the 8,000 CR should come from central and state schemes. Multilateral development banks support should contribute 10%, especially for flood resilience, drainage, water systems, and climate adaptation. Public-private partnership should provide 12%, mainly in logistic, warehousing, tourism infrastructure, and selected processing facilities. CSR should contribute 6% with a focus on tea worker welfare, health, education, digital access, and skills. Community contribution should account for 8%, not as a financial burden on poor households, but through participation, maintenance groups, producer institutions, and local ownership. The short-term impact will be visible through civil work, logistic jobs, and local construction demand. In the medium term, the district should gain from stronger tea and agri-value addition, better warehousing, improved tourism revenue, and reduced transport losses. In the long term, the benefit should appear as lower flood losses, higher worker welfare, stronger market access, better rural income, and greater resilience of forestage communities. The human condition impact must be measured clearly. With a population of 38.73 lakh, Jalpaiguri should target direct improvement in livelihood security for at least 6 lakh people by 2030 through tea value chain, agro-processing, and forest-linked enterprises. At least 1.5 lakh households should be supported to raise annual income by 25% to 35% in selected clusters. Poverty reduction should come from wage stability, local enterprise growth, reduced flood-related asset losses, and improved access to markets. Food security should improve through reliable power, better rural connectivity, agro-processing, local storage, and reduced post-harvest loss, with a target of 2 lakh rural household gaining more stable access to food, income, and local markets. Health conditions should improve through reliable water, better worker settlements, flood-resilient access, and strengthened local health system, with a target of reducing flood-related service disruption by 25% and improving basic health access for all priority tea and forestage settlements. Education should improve through worker housing services, safer connectivity, and better school support, with a target of reducing weather and distance related school disruption by at least 20% in vulnerable rural and tea garden areas. These targets are logical because the household welfare in Jalpaiguri depends on the same chain. Water security reduces disease, flood control protects workdays, logistics raises incomes, worker, housing improves dignity, and better health and education increase long-term mobility.